Welcome, Dr. Haley. It's so nice to meet you and have you here on the podcast. I'm excited for our community to get to know you and for you to share a little bit about the way and the lens that you look at dermatology through and what essential ingredients plays a role in that for you. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Justine. I'm so happy to be here. The
I'm so go
um
on, go on.
the way I look at skin is it's basically the largest visible organ that we have in our body. And it's an indicator of what's going on inside of the body. So if there's something inflamed in your skin or something going on with your skin, there's a good indication that there's something going on within. So we always want to look within, and then you get the bounty on the outside of your skin.
I like that. I don't think that everybody looks at it that way. And it's funny, recently I had broken out like right here. And I felt like I was hitting puberty again, except at a later stage in life, right? That other stage. And so I called my naturopath and I said to her, "Oh, I'm breaking out. Oh my goodness." She goes, "You might be low in zinc. Ha- have something with zinc." And I had a couple oysters and Bob's your uncle and it went away. So, to your point, and that's just a very small example of something I experienced and how it was connected.
So many things can cause those breakouts. And in Arizona, our water is really high in copper. So sometimes giving somebody a little bit of zinc can make the difference, because copper, zinc, and iron have this beautiful little dance together that they do. So we're not recommending that everyone out there take a lot of zinc, because that could throw off the balance of things. But if you are zinc deficient for a short period of time, it can help clear up your acne. And then there's other things in our environment, all of the hormone disruptors like plastics, or even touching receipts and having the lining of the coffee that we pick up every day. Those things can mess up our hormones. They are endocrine disruptors that can cause acne at other ages than just the teenage years.
There are
And
so many things. Wow. In everyday life.
mhm. Yeah, so before I start throwing medication at people, I really like to take a look at what we do on a daily basis, the simple things that we can shift or adjust in order to live our best life before, pulling out all your money and spending your hard-earned money on products that may or may not solve your problem.
So what are the first like 3 or 5 questions that you ask your patients when they come in to better understand what route to take?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we were talking offline before we started about my undergraduate degree in nutrition. So I studied nutrition undergrad. It's really my passion. And then I go to medical school, and we're taught that food doesn't play any role in your health. And just from a logical standpoint, I'm 54. So this was about 30 years ago, right? 35 years ago. And I thought in my mind, we take medicine by mouth. So how is it that the body believes that medicine will cure us, and the food and the water that we consume every day plays no role? That just doesn't make any logical sense when you break it down, right? So, I look at food as messages, and it's been shown in the field of epigenetics, where it's not our genetics to be our destiny. Only about 15% of our genetics determines our health and the appearance of how quickly we age on our skin and overall. The other 85% is the environment, the exposome, what we are exposed to every single day. Some of these things are within our control and some of them are not, but there's a lot that's within our control. And food is one of them. And food and purified, filtered water, not in plastic, can certainly help turn on the right signals in our body and turn off the wrong signals in our body, whether it's accelerated aging or acne or dermatitis or all of the things.
Wow,
Yeah.
so interesting. I mean, I'm still thinking about that coffee cup because I'm thinking about all the people that go and have a coffee collar, right? Aren't they called coffee collars or something? I stopped doing that because I make my own espresso every morning.
Mhm.
But the truth is, for years, I'd go every single day. And I'm wondering, as you're picking that up every day, what impact is that having? And by not doing it, are you able to reverse it? Or is that already in you? And now you can only move forward.
I know. I'm a believer that we can only move forward, but I mean, I cringe when I hear you say that because I think about being a pregnant woman and having going to get coffee in the morning because I was an overworked physician in a hospital. And I berate myself thinking, oh, could I have made better choices? Because we know that coffee and wine, they have the most pesticides in them out of like a lot of the vegetables and the fruits out there. So there's, we can't really beat ourselves up for what we didn't know in the past. And our body has an amazing ability to detoxify. We do that through sweat, and that's why it's really important to sweat or sauna. Just remove the sweat, hot yoga, whatever you like to do. When we sweat, we remove heavy metals and toxins, but we want to shower it off. We don't want to like let the sweat sit on our skin and get reabsorbed through urine, through defecation. For women who have our menses, we actually are detoxifying. When we breathe, we detoxify as well. So there's many ways that we detoxify, and our liver and our kidneys and all of these other mechanisms can really clean out all the toxins we're exposed to, and we can forge forward. That's always what I suggest.
Right. And I think that's so important to think about, right? We can't kick ourselves for what we didn't do. But now that we're learning the impact of all these different things, and as you said, wine and coffee have the most pesticides out of a lot of fruits and vegetables. Some people we take for granted may not even know that, right? They may
I
not know that, and they may not know the impact of that. What are some of the other fruits and vegetables that people eat on a daily basis that maybe we're not cognizant of the impact of them and how they're negatively impacting us, so that maybe they can make a more informed choice the next time they go to the grocery store?
right? I mean, before I even try to pick apart fruits and vegetables, I would always prefer that someone has a food that has one ingredient, right? We want the most essential, minimal ingredients. So avocado or banana or, one ingredient, as opposed to a package that has a whole bunch of ingredients on there, because processed foods our body doesn't necessarily recognize as food. So we have this trust that when we go to the grocery store, that our body actually identifies those things in the middle aisles as food, yet it doesn't. It has to spend all of its resources removing artificial color, artificial flavor, all these preservatives from the food in order to get a small amount of nutrients. So I usually refer to the ewg.org to look at, the dirty dozen and the clean 15 as far as choosing fruits and vegetables. But the main rule of thumb is if something has a thick skin like a banana, it doesn't necessarily have to be organic, or like an avocado. But if it has skin that's going to soak up the pesticides, like an apple or a tomato or berries, you definitely want to have those as organic, because the benefits you can get from blueberries that are loaded with pesticides are kind of defeated if they're not organic. So there's certain things that you really want to choose organic. But if you're going to choose blueberry lifesavers over blueberries, I would choose blueberries, right?
Well, that's a better choice, and that's what we really want to encourage, because we can't have everybody be perfect, right?
No. And we don't want to overcomplicate it. I mean, just eat real food and eat at home as much as you can, and prepare your own food as much as you can. And think of food as, you want to enjoy it, but you also know that it's messages and it's signals, and it's never too late.
And I think that, if you pay attention, at least for me, my experience, if I pay attention to what I'm eating and how I'm feeling, whether it's my stomach, whether it's, that I got congested or I have a headache, you can tell what foods your body resonates with better. It's talking to you, it's telling you, in my opinion, what to eat and what not to eat that works for you. And I've been doing that since I'm a little girl, because my mother used to tell me, don't eat dairy, you're going to get too congested. Don't eat this, you're going to, she was shoving tofuti at me, and, all these things. I'm probably dating myself now. But so
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's important that regardless, not everybody feels great when they eat a blueberry. Maybe they get a sour taste in their mouth. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
think the connection between making the right choice and choosing what's right for you and how you feel with it is so important.
You bring up such a valid point, because at the end of the day, we have such an overflowing amount of information coming at us all the time that I think we lose touch with our intuitive sense of what works for us and what doesn't work for us. So I wish I had trusted my body with dairy, because I personally get the stuffiness and the sore throat and the inflammation. And I had to get to the point where I lost my voice 7 times in a year to realize that I had pools of acid in my larynx. And I still love cheese. Like, it's my favorite thing. If I was going to eat it, cheese is so good, but in small portions, I can certainly enjoy it. It's the chronic long term thing that causes problems for us. And I want people to understand that there's guidance out there. Anyone who's really dogmatic about anything, you have to have a hesitation regarding that, because at the end of the day, it's like, what feels good with you? Check in with yourself and trust yourself, because we know the answers of what works for us if we can just trust it.
I agree with you. So I want to throw something else. I want to throw a little fly in the ointment there for you about gut and how the gut impacts us as well, and what role food plays in our gut, and then the impact it has on how we feel. And I don't just mean nauseous, I mean like you could be depressed, you could have all sorts of things. Because I think that there's a real connection here, and I'm going to leave it to you to tell me, am I wrong, am I crazy, or there is really a connection here.
No,
um,
there's an absolute connection. You're so telepathic, because I wanted to circle back to this topic. So the gut, the skin, and the brain, it's gut, skin, brain axis. And they all are derived from the same cell when we're an embryo. So they all intercommunicate. So in Western medicine, we divide things. We have the skin doctor, we have the endocrine doctor, we have the gyno, we have all different areas, but the body doesn't disconnect from itself.
right.
Everything is connected. So, one organ that is damaged or inflamed or diseased is going to affect the rest of the body. And we're really seeing this now. There's more and more evidence, even though clearly intuitively, and I always knew intuitively, that they were interconnected. Now we're seeing solid evidence. So I'll start with acne. So with acne, we know there's certain things that can worsen acne in someone who's predisposed. Of course, there are always exceptions of people that do all the wrong things and have no acne, and people that do all the right things and still have acne, right? Because we have that 15% of genetics, but the 85% that is within our control, we might as well give it a shot, right? So the first thing is high glycemic foods, foods that spike glucose, that bump up your sugar in your bloodstream, worsen acne. And, this is not just sugar itself, but it's also processed carbohydrates that readily turn into sugar in the body. So if you have bread or rice or oats or oat milk or pasta, your body can quickly convert that into glucose and cause inflammation. One way to lower this jump is to have it with protein and have it with fats.
Mhm.
So that will decrease the spike that you have. And just avoid any sugary drinks, and avoid, obvious sugars and sweets and stuff, if you want to have clear skin. The second is dairy, which we touched on, because dairy is inflammatory. And ironically, skim milk makes it worse than whole fat milk. So I usually will recommend people just kind of cleaning up their whole diet for 6 weeks with those two things, and then starting other things. Like, I'll recommend some fish oil and a little bit of zinc and a few other tweaks like vitamin D, and some B vitamins, which have been linked to helping improve acne. Just depends on the person themselves. I need to do an evaluation of where their levels are to begin with. And we do that for 6 weeks, along with medical treatment and proper skincare. And then, once they're clear, we could slowly start to introduce. So I don't want anyone's brain going down the road of like, oh no, I have to live this way forever. There's nothing absolute in this world, nothing. Okay.
Well, that
So
gives me inspiration, right? So
absolutely, So acne, we know for sure, can be worsened by diet. Now, rosacea is another one that we're really getting solid evidence of it being associated with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, and having worsening acne.
that's super interesting on a personal level. Not speaking about myself, but to share, because I had SIBO. I was tested years ago for SIBO, And then I ended up getting like a little rosacea here and on my eyes. And when I had a reoccurrence of the SIBO, is when I found out I had rosacea there. And
It's
nobody connected the dots for me, probably because my eye doctor was the one that told me about the rosacea up here, and because
yeah.
I was at a different doctor talking about the SIBO.
Isn't that interesting? See, and if we all just communicated and we listened to
But in all fairness, I mean, who's going to tell their eye doctor that they have SIBO? That doesn't. I mean, that would not be a correlation for me to think, oh, I need to tell my doctor I have SIBO.
it's really only been the last 5 or 6 years that I've asked people about symptoms, and it, most people aren't forthcoming with their GI symptoms when they're at the dermatologist. It actually sounds like you had something called perioral dermatitis, which is a subset of rosacea. For anyone listening, those are little bumps around the mouth and around the eyes, whereas rosacea is redness that's central to the face. There's different types. No, it's really interesting because social media makes it look like dermatologists do beauty and skincare, but really we know about 3,000 different diagnoses in the skin, and a lot of them are associated with other underlying conditions, and therefore they're treatable by looking at the person as a holistic approach. So now let's talk about the brain. This is what really excites me, is that once we start addressing diet and we slowly shift our diet, our gut bacteria are healthier. We produce 85% of the serotonin in our gut, and we tend to have happier moods, more motivation, and it feeds back into the cycle of taking care of ourselves. So you just need to get that takeoff, that initial takeoff, and then everything sort of cascades. And so many times have I given patients my acne diet, and it even goes down to breath work, because cortisol control and managing stress is really essential to keeping hormones balanced and keeping the body in a healthy place. Because think about this, if we're in high stress, what does high stress indicate? We're running from an animal that's going to eat us, right? So the last thing our body wants to do is reproduce. Like you shouldn't have a baby if you're in a stress mode. So I'm going to screw up your hormones so you can't have a baby, because you can't take care of the baby if you're running around.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. So just to connect with the brain again, with the gut, um, I don't know what I was watching, but I was watching something and listening to something, and there was a whole conversation around our responses and our reactions, and how if we have a healthy gut, we have one kind of reaction, but if we're having issues with our gut, we can have these different kinds of reactions. And I thought it was super interesting because here it is, you know, it's impacting the way that you respond to conversations, to your husband, to your wife, to your children. And by identifying what's going on in the gut, by identifying what you're eating and how it's making you feel, it sounds like it can impact your brain and how you respond and how you think and feel.
hmm Yeah, I mean, really having a healthy brain is so important, because it's our motivation, it's our mood, it's our relationships, it's our job performance. It carries over into every aspect of our life. And while food and diet isn't the whole picture, sometimes there's reprogramming and um, you know, trauma from childhood or transgenerational trauma. There's multiple ways that things can get worked out. There's neurofeedback, there's meditation, there's therapy, there's many things, because we've all had different unique soul experiences on this earth. Although having a good diet is definitely going to help, because we have more bacteria in our body than genetically than our actual cells. It's kind of freaky. Like, who's really the boss here, right? Like, I believe that we actually have cravings because the bacteria in our body want a certain food. Like one of my sons, he loves nachos every day. I'm like, you have a parasite that wants you to have nachos every day. And he really craves it. And I've noticed that with myself or with patients, or people will have it with like beer or wine, or certain things, like even you just have to break the cycle. And then I feel like you get a recalibration or rebalancing of the bacteria. And that's why I find that it's so important to avoid processed foods as much as we can. I eat out way too much, but I do try to avoid a lot of processed foods because the reason why Oreos or other processed foods can stay on the shelf for years and years at a time is because they have preservatives in them.
Mhm.
And our gut is loaded with a microbiome, organisms, different organisms, bacteria, as I mentioned, fungi, archaea, all these different organisms that are in this perfect balance and keep us healthy and keep the barrier strong and send signals and just do all the things we need to do. And when we eat those preservatives, what happens is they're killing our own gut bacteria. So it's like taking small amounts of antibiotics all the time. It throws everything off, and then one thing overgrows. Just like when a woman's given antibiotics and she gets a yeast infection. Yeast aren't bad. We just need them in balance. We don't want them overgrowing. Same holds true for our gut.
So I'm curious, you're talking about balance. I'm thinking, the saying everything in moderation. So if you were to have, if your kid liked a Oreo once every 6 months, what is the actual impact of that? Is that like an awful thing, or is that something that's like, okay, you have one Oreo and it's not gonna.
No, I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that matters. I mean, in college, I've seen this mentality with so many people, and I had it myself, where it's like, oh, I broke the diet, might as well go crazy now. And it's not really that way. Like one ice cream sundae a month, who cares? Like that doesn't matter. Out of all the hundreds of thousands of calories or nutrients, like I just try to look at the food as like what's the most nutrient dense, especially as women get older. The most important thing we could do is keep our muscles and our bones strong. So focusing on getting high quality protein and maximizing the nutritional density. So we want to have the maximum number of nutrients per calorie, really, right?
I
So
seem to be on a big protein diet now, and as I turned 53 and embarked on this whole other journey, it's now all about the protein, which I was really protein forward anyway. But now I was told it was like, I don't know, something like 5 eggs in the morning. I mean, the equivalent of 5 eggs in the morning. And I was like, I'm allergic to eggs. So I'm going to need another example. But it just sounds like a lot of protein,
it
for
is. It's a full time job for me.
and I think what's interesting about it is that at different points in our lives, while we always need protein and we need our vegetables and we need things shift a little. And I think it's important to pay attention to that because as we age, as we're in different parts of our lives, whether you're pregnant or you're going through menopause or you're a teenager, right? All the hormones are different. The needs are different when you're growing versus when you're going through menopause. Two different things, two different times in your life.
Yeah, and different times of your cycle, it changes as well. So during that luteal phase, right before your period, I say eat all the carbs you want because you're really growing an organ. You're growing a uterine lining. And if you don't give into it, your body's metabolism kind of shuts down a little bit. So everything in this world is meant to cycle. We are not meant to be rigid. We are meant to cycle. We're meant to like enjoy life. If you're going to imbibe, enjoy it. Enjoy it with people you love. Like that's why I think the blue zones live long because they just enjoy each other. They don't feel guilty about it and eat tons of it. You just enjoy it. Um,
I think
and
that's true.
yeah, I don't want anyone to get out of this like, oh, don't do this and don't do that because I definitely don't believe that. I mean, I had some carrot cake today because it's like my birthday, but a bite or two is enough.
Birthday.
Yeah, yeah, a bite or two is enough because we just don't need a large quantity. So we look at it in the grand scheme of things, and not from a guilt place, but from a joy, from a love, from a savoring and a sharing experience maybe with other people, right? It's just what are we doing every day? What feels good for us? What doesn't? And I don't think anyone out there will say like putting down a pizza is going to feel good the next day. You just not.
Sometimes, like if we want a piece of cake, I really just need a forkful. I don't really need the whole thing. I don't even want the whole thing. I just want a little taste.
Exactly. And studies show that after 2 to 3 bites, your taste buds are satisfied.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's not an all or nothing world. It's just enjoy it, enjoy it, but don't be a glutton or, like do
I
too
would
much.
agree. I would agree. So anyway, so before we wrap this up, I'm curious. I'm sure you have a message that you always like to make sure that you're your patients walk away with? Are there 2 or 3 things that you want to, impart to those listeners that are tuned in today, whether they're teenagers or adults, that can really allow them to connect the idea of essential ingredients with their skin?
Sure. Well, as we mentioned earlier, your skin is a reflection of your internal health. So if it's screaming at you, you have to listen and take a holistic approach. The second is that it's really a lesson that I think is best learned when you're young. It makes life easier to embrace who you are and don't try to be anyone else, because I'm never going to be a good Justine. Like, I'm great at being Jen. I'm not great at being Justine. So stop reaching externally for answers, because intuitively, if you really, really sit quietly with yourself and feel, you have all the answers for yourself. And then the third thing is we are meant to cycle, especially women. We're in this beautiful rhythm every month, every season of our lives. And we are not stagnant beings. So what worked for you 10 years ago probably won't work for you now, and definitely will not work in the future. So we are meant to be cyclic with everything: our food, our exercise, all of it, our skincare, all of it. And we can definitely talk about that in the future.
There's so much to talk about, and as things evolve, and as we have, a community that's coming forward with all these new things, it's always exciting to see what's new and what's next,
Definitely.
and how that shapes new things. Thank
Love
you
it.
so much for joining me today. It was so great to chat. And I hope that everyone that tuned in today really got something out of this, because there's a million different things that I took away from it, not just the new thing that I have that's not this and that and whatever. Anyway, for those that want to learn more, or maybe even want to connect with you, what's the best way?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, Jennifer Haley, MD, FAAD, board certified dermatologist, and probably I'm most active on Instagram at Dr. Jen Haley, DrJenHaley.
Awesome. So for
Oh,
those,
and I have a podcast.
oh my
Sorry.
God, how did you forget your podcast?
I have my own podcast called Radiance Revealed. I do it for fun when I'm in the mood and I'm feeling like there's a topic I want to discuss. But if you hit me up on DM on Instagram telling me something you want me to discuss, I will discuss it on the podcast.
Oh, okay. I've got so many things. You weren't talking just to me, you were talking to the listeners, but I have a few.
Great.
So don't forget to follow Jen on Instagram. Check out her podcast. We're going to add everything in the show notes so you'll be able to connect. And for those of you that are tuning in today on our podcast, we also have our video cast on our Essential Ingredients YouTube channel. And don't forget to follow us at essential.ingredients. And I want to thank our guests and our listeners, and you, Jen, for joining me today. I so appreciate it. It was great to connect.
I appreciate you. Thank you.